My name is Kyle Royer.
Oh, it's hot. It's really hot.
And I'm making my second ever sword named Excelsior. It's even more steel than I used on my first sword. So let's embark together on this epic edged adventure. In this video, we're gonna take these 17 pieces of steel, get them forge welded together, and start drawing out and shaping our blade for Excelsior. So I got the mosaic forged out, forged it into a blade shape, and then I spent about 6 hours straightening the blade. I had a horrible time trying to get it straight. I needed to get it straight this way and this way. And it seemed like every time I went to move it, it was just going way too far one direction or the other direction, and had little humps that I needed to get out and everything. And the workbench that I was using, the metal topped workbench to try to get it flat, also had some big dips and bows and everything in it. So I used, Dad set up some really flat, solid 3-inch square bars on here, and we got them flat, shimmed them up. There's 2 separate bars, welded them down to the table, and I was able to use these bars to help straighten and flatten the blade. It doesn't need to be perfectly flat because it's like a 1/2 inch thick, and we're gonna be doing a tremendous amount of grinding, but I wanted it to be pretty close because we're gonna put it on the surface grinder and stuff, and it would just cause a lot of problems if you start out with the blade not being a little bit flat at least. The most important thing for me to get forged to shape was actually the profile of the blade. I wanted to especially get this section right here where it gets real skinny. I wanted to get that part forged in really well, and to slightly kind of get this area forged in, and also had to widen this area here. And the reason I wanted to get all that profile forged in was so the pattern would flow better with the blade. If I left it a big solid piece of bar stock and then ground the profile in, it would be cutting into the pattern, and it wouldn't show the pattern off as prettily as I would like. I'm not worried about the thickness though. I'm okay with cutting into that. In fact, I'm happy that the blade came out so thick. On a project this expensive, having some extra steel to grind off doesn't bother me whatsoever. I'd rather have extra than not have enough. The next thing we need to do is get this blade normalized. It's been put through tremendous stresses. I forged small sections at a time because it wouldn't all fit in my forge. So there's huge stress between where the heat stopped and the next section started. So many crazy stresses going on in the blade. We want to get all the steel really relaxed and in a really good state for heat treating and all the grinding and stuff we need to do. So to do that, we're going to normalize it by heating it up to 1600 degrees, letting it cool down, heating it back up to 1500 degrees, let it cool, and then one more at 1400 degrees and let it cool again. To normalize this blade, I would like to introduce Kevin, the Minion Forge. Dad's been working on Kevin for quite a while now, getting him all set up really nicely. This is actually the same forge we used to heat treat my first sword, except it's been upgraded times 1000%. It now has a bunch of pyrometers and all sorts of crazy cool things on here that we didn't have the first time. Let's get Excelsior in the forge and get it up to our first normalizing temperature of 1600 degrees. Hang on, I don't.
We're good.
Set it down.
Okay. It's in the bind. It's fine.
Calipers, things. Swing it around in there.
It's all you, bro. You're okay.
That looks nice and even as far as I can tell by the bright shop. Ooh. Mom, come in here. Woo. Hurry guys, it's burning. You're hot. I brought it into the dark room here and you can really see it's got a nice even color on it. Because out there in the sunlight, you can't really tell. And that would normally be a bad idea. We'd have to normalize this in the dark. You wouldn't want to do it in bright sunlight. But since we have the forge set up with all those pyrometers, I was very confident that we're getting the proper temperature.
All right, I gotta hang this thing up. I'm getting... That's hot. That's hot. That's real hot. Guys, move it. I'm about to burn up here. Yeah, burn up Kyle. Here, come feel my pants.
Burn Kyle. Everyone
Feel
feels
that.
pants.
Ow! You're like, oh, I'm hot. I bet your pants aren't that hot.
Had the blade hanging up for about 15, 16 minutes now, and I think it's nice and cool. It doesn't need to cool all the way to room temperature. We just want to make sure it's at least below like 700 or 800 degrees. It's probably somewhere around like 500, 600, I'm guessing by now. We can go ahead and take it and put it back into Kevin the Minion Forge and bring it up to 1500 degrees and repeat the entire cycle of letting it cool, and then we'll heat it up one last time after that. Back in the forge. Kevin the Minion Forge for our 1500 degree temperature. Oh, it's heavy on my wrist. We're getting ready to pull the blade out for the 1500 degree normalization cycle. Should be good to go. It's soaked for a minute or two. Just need to turn this thing off and I'm gonna try to pull it straight out. Let's go look at it in the dark room before I hang it. Whoop. Don't drag it on the ground, that'll bend it.
Looks pretty even. Sit on concrete. I don't want it to suck the heat out. That looks really even. Sweet.
We just gotta let that cool and then we're gonna do one more cycle. We're gonna do 1400 degrees, maybe 1450, that kind of range. Take it out, let it cool all the way down to air temperature, and then we'll be ready for lots and 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 lots of grinding. Blade's cooled down to a couple hundred degrees. Had a little inspection on it. The blade seems really straight still, but the tang has a pretty extreme warpage in it. I don't know if it's just warpage from the heat or maybe I put a little bit of an angled pressure on it side to side when I pulled it out or something. Either way, we're gonna have to keep moving forward and hopefully I can deal with it later on in the build. The tip looks hot when I pull it out here. Like, look at it.
I want to get in here now.
Why is that? No.
It does look a little hot.
The tip's hot.
It was 1440.
We took the blade out at 1400 degrees. The bottom was closer to 1440. Plus or minus 50 degrees is really what I was shooting for, so that's okay, but it just looked a little extra bright, a little brighter than I expected. So just to be on the safe side, I think we're gonna do a fourth normalization. Again, just to be on the complete safe side, I think it's probably okay, but we're gonna go ahead and try to shoot for maybe 1325 to maybe 1350 degrees, just to make sure that the tip wasn't actually too hot, make sure there wasn't some kind of problem with the thermocouple or whatever. Do that fourth cycle. We're up to 1350 degrees, and this should be our final normalization. Like I said, I normally stop at 1400, but the tip of the blade just looked a little bit hot, so I wanna double make sure that we're all good, so we went ahead and did this fourth cycle. See, it doesn't look like the tip's hot this time. Last time it looked hot. Still a little bit, maybe. We're done normalizing it? I don't think I can even say that again if I tried. Normalizing it? We're done normalizing the blade, so now I have a lot of grinding to do.
And lots and lots and lots and lots.
And by a lot, I mean a whole lot.
And lots.
We're gonna be doing some angle grinding to remove the scale. We're gonna be doing a whole bunch of surface grinding. I'll have to do it in small segments though, because my table's only 18 inches and this blade is like 46 inches long altogether with the tang. And then we're also gonna be doing some belt grinding. We're gonna get this thing thinned down, get it profiled up a little bit, and then we can move on to getting it hardened, heat treated, and tempered. thin down my sword, I'm gonna use the surface grinder. I'm using a 1958 Benton Harbor, Michigan grinder. Brand is Colville. This thing's a beast, but it's not that big compared to how big my sword is. So I did this first section here. Now I'm gonna overlap about half of what I've done on the table and leave half of it off the table, and then grind all that down to the same level. And then I'll move it over and keep working small half sections at a time until I get all the way down the blade. It's not the optimal way. The optimal way would be to put it all in one big chuck that would fit the sword and do it all at one time. But I don't have anything big enough to do that, so we're gonna have to do it in small sections and get it as flat as I can. I can also influence some little humps and warps in the blade by like sprinkling a little bit of the dust underneath certain spots. Like if I've got a warp where there's like a big hump or something, I could sprinkle a little dust on there and then turn the magnet on, and it would keep that spot up so I could get it all flat. We want to get it pretty flat right now. It doesn't need to be perfect because it'll probably warp quite a bit during heat treatment, so might as well not even try to fight it too bad right now and just work on it after heat treat. I'm also turning on the magnetic chuck, and I'm using one of these heavy chunks of W2 that I got from Don Hansen years ago, actually. I'm taking these with the part that's hanging over that I'm gonna do a lot of the grinding on. I like to set one of those on there, and what that does is it kind of pulls this metal down off the edge of the table a little bit, puts some weight on it, pulls it down, because I'm running the stone off the edge of the table, and it just helps leave a nicer transition right here where the stone's going all the way past the table a little bit. Without that, it would cut in and leave a little bit deeper of a gouge right where I stop. Because as you're grinding with a surface grinder, it goes down, and then if you stop on the metal, it kind of digs into the metal extra deep there, and then it goes when you're going back the other way. So this will help keep it from digging in as deep right where I'm stopping. Not gonna worry about putting one on the other side right now because I'm just gonna go down until I barely start dusting this part already ground. I'm gonna go all the way down the blade, flip it over, go all the way down the other blade, and just keep working it down slowly because I gotta get this blade down until it's somewhere around maybe 300 thousandths, maybe a little bit less than that. I'm shooting for a finished thickness right around the Ricasso of about 1/4 of an inch. And right now it's like a 1/2 inch. So we've got a lot of material to remove. Could have used a little bit less billet, but I'm fine having extra material. I'd rather have extra material than not enough any day of the week. Always want to make sure the magnet is on. Got a little night light up here, a Vader night light that lets me know that's on. Go ahead and start grinding on this section. We've just about got the sword ready for heat treating, but I really wanted to see how the pattern looks, so I put the sword in a batch of instant coffee overnight, and it should reveal what the pattern's gonna look like before we heat treat this thing. Let's pull it out and take a look and have our first reveal of the finished pattern. Whoa, it does look really cool though. Oh man, the pattern is gonna be super eye-catching. I wanted something that you could see from a distance. Since this is a sword, I didn't want the pattern to get too fine because a lot of the photos and everything are gonna be kind of far away. And when you see this, you're probably not gonna be up close to it as close as you would be with something smaller, just because of how big it is. So I wanted something really eye-catching. I'm loving this squiggly bit of stars that goes up the blade on both sides. That's cool. I actually had a few concerns with how the Damascus pattern was gonna look once I got it all tile welded together onto the sword. There was a few different times as I was working on it where I was like questioning myself and questioning how it would look. But after seeing the finished pattern on the sword, I am super happy with how it came out. I think it's gonna look super eye-catching from a distance, and it'll have that grab your attention factor that I was going for, and it'll have lots of little details you can see if you're looking at it up close as well. In the next video, it's time to give Excelsior a soul. Right now it's a soft, pretty piece of metal, but we need to get it hardened up so it'll actually hold an edge if you go to cut with it. Heat treating the sword is the last stage that I have where catastrophic failure could happen. If I can make it past this heat treating, I think we'll be good. I don't think I'll destroy the blade. But if something goes wrong in heat treating, the last 2 weeks of work could have all been for nothing except for a learning experience. I will see you in the next video. May the forge be with you. Bye-bye.